Okay, this is based on, pure speculation, and I'm just reading into things, looking into things as far as symbology go. And you know that the elitists, let's say that, they love to use symbology, especially in the occult world. And I was watching The Bad Man. Great movie, by the way. But as I'm watching it, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the movie, and me being familiar with symbology for years, I just couldn't help but make a link between the Riddler's question mark and Q, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? The group, the 17th letter. I'm not going to keep using that letter, so I'm going to refer to it as the 17th letter, right? So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm watching a movie and I'm going, there's a lot of the symbology of that question mark, which looks like the 17th letter, right? And the Riddler's whole thing in the movie, the whole point of the Riddler is to expose corruption. And what is the 17th letter movement all about? What is that anonymous group supposedly all about? It's all about D-class, right? Disclosure. It's all about exposing or revealing corruption. That's what it's supposed to be about. Now, some people make the argument that it's a CIA front group. Who was it? Lindell and Michael Flynn went into it. There was a recorded phone conversation, and I'm going off topic, but they were saying that group was a CIA front group, or at least I believe it was Flynn that said that. So anyway, regardless, what I'm saying is that this movie had a feel to it, and it could just be that the writer or the writers were influenced by the letter 17, but I could definitely feel that theme throughout the movie, that the Riddler's vengeance group could be predictive programming for an anonymous group, i.e., the 17th letter. So it's interesting. Falcone in the movie and the Penguin were running this like underground ring, right? And what does the 17th letter, the 17th letter Q, what do they talk about? They talk about underground rings, right? So that was another clue. That was another clue. And I said, damn. And because I was watching it with someone. I was on a date with this chick. I shouldn't say a chick, it's really my ex. But she noticed that I kind of got like really, really into the movie. Like really, really into it, but she didn't know why, because I wouldn't, I'd never tell her, but I'm sitting there watching this big question mark and I could not help but think of that letter 17. And I said, damn, this feels like this movie is coded and it's telling us something, and it's for people with certain eyes. Like the Bible says that him that have eyes to see, let him see, ears to hear, let him hear, or whatever, right? Like you have to be up on things to understand the coding. This ring, this underground ring, had been in operation for years, and the people of Gotham never knew about it. The Riddler's whole thing was exposing all of it. And that is the main theme throughout the whole entire movie. Well, what has been the hot button issue with the letter 17? Underground rings. Trafficking, right? Trafficking has been the number one issue, or the number one subject matter for the letter 17. So it just felt like, to me anyway, it felt like whoever wrote it, whoever the writers are, they were definitely pulling from that group, said the letter 17. Okay. Definitely. I can't see how they weren't. You could maybe say I was looking too deeply into it, but it's just something that I noticed. Because supposedly, according to the letter 17 believers, this year is supposed to be the year that all this information comes out. And again, I'm not speaking, this is not my opinion necessarily. I'm just saying from my research and from my study, supposedly this is the year that it's supposed to all come to a head. And there's supposed to be a lot of D-class, a lot of disclosure, a lot of revealing of underground workings of the globalist cabal, and the elites are going to be exposed, and this, that, and the third. So that was the whole entire theme for the Batman, for the Riddler, really. That was the theme. But notice the Riddler was the bad guy. Right? And the Riddler was anonymous. See, that's the other part. That's what really got me. I'm sitting here looking at this big question mark, and what does it look like? What letter in the alphabet does that question mark look like? It looks like the 17th letter. And then he's anonymous. He's not like the Joker. Like the Joker's character, you always know who the Joker is, right? The Joker is kind of like flamboyant and out there. The Joker introduces himself. You don't have to go looking for the Joker. The Joker will find you. Bane, same thing, right? But the Riddler is anonymous. And I just thought that it was interesting that at this point in time, with all of this stuff coming out, all of this D-class, all of this disclosure, and the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. And again, I'm not saying that anything's going to happen. Please don't put me in that. I'm just saying I found it interesting, right? And this is the point of this podcast, is just to speak about things, just throwing things out there that I find interesting. A lot of times from, things that I see in symbology, in movies, in music, in sports. There's a lot of symbology, a lot of occult knowledge and science and all of that they hide. Symbolism, they're always hiding it. And I'm of the opinion that this whole movie, especially the Riddler's character, was based off of that anonymous group. If you don't know what I'm talking about, okay, I'm sure you're lost. But if you know anything about that or have kept up with that, you would have seen probably the same thing that I saw. There's no way in hell that this was an accident. I don't think I'm crazy. You have a big question mark looking like the 17th letter in the alphabet. You have an anonymous, I dropped something. You have an anonymous group. Okay, I guess, what would they call it? Vengeance? I would have to go back and see it again. I only saw it once, and I didn't take notes. I'm going off the top of my head right now. So you have an anonymous group, and this group wants to take vengeance, and the Riddler's character is all about D-class. It's all about exposure. Well, who's being exposed right now at the moment? The globalists, the cabal, they're all being exposed at this very moment. And supposedly this is the year when it's all going to come out. Hunter Biden's laptop is coming out. The Durham report is coming out. A lot of things, man. And it's just, I find the timing very, very interesting. Not that I believe necessarily, I'm just looking at timing. I just thought it was interesting, and I saw the symbology behind it. And even if the writers of the movie don't believe in the 17th letter or whatever, just the fact that they put all the symbology in the movie, it shows great writing. And I think that that's the reason why the movie was so great, because there's a certain consciousness to it. People, whether they realize it or not, know there's something's going on, something's wrong with this world, that there's something going on beneath the surface, and nothing is what it appears to be, and all of these politicians are corrupt, and there's an elite cabal. People are, whether they're conscious of it, people have their inner conscious or the subconscious knows that something's not right in this world. And I think that the Batman did a good job of tapping into that. Great movie. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not saying I believe in the letter 17. I don't know what the hell's going on. There's been a lot of drip, but I just found this interesting that all of this symbolism was put in this particular film at this moment when all of this information is coming out. It's almost like they were pre-programming people for something to come. Or it could be the opposite. It could be a setup or pre-programming for another Jan 6 type situation where they have some fake group that they'll, there's some actors, some crisis actors, this could be pre-programming that the Riddler's character did, where he had all of these people following him, vengeance or whatever they were called. And maybe this is pre-programming, and maybe the elites, the cabal, maybe they're going to stage some kind of event with crisis actors. Maybe that's what's going to happen next. I don't know. Maybe that's what's coming. And like I said, maybe this was just pre-programming, and maybe they're trying to put something in the minds of people so that when this event takes place, people will say, oh, these people are crazy. And because, not to get too deep, but we all know that they're taking away our rights and our freedoms and all of that other stuff. And I'm getting away from the movie. But this could be a situation where they just wanted to inject that thought into people's heads that there's this group out there that's going to do a lot of harm. I'll put it like that. Okay, I have to watch my wording because of censorship. Okay, great movie all in all, and I just think that they definitely pulled from the Letter 17 group. I forgot to mention that also Trump, who I will be calling the T-Man from here on out, is Batman. Now, where do I get that from? If you recall, there's a video still online. A kid walked up to him and said, "Mr. Trump, are you Batman?" And he said, "I'm Batman." Okay. And then at his inauguration, he gave a speech in which he quoted Bane. He said, I'm giving back power. I'm taking power away from the corrupt elites, and I'm giving it back to you, the people." He quoted Bane. I thought that was interesting. So there's this Batman theme when it comes to Trump. So this is why I tied the Letter 17 into the Batman, the newest The Batman movie. Also, if you look at Trump's, I'm going to call him the T-Man for the algorithm sake, okay? So stay with me. If you look at the T-Man's lifestyle, when he was in his 30s, he was Bruce Wayne, a young billionaire. I don't know if he was a billionaire, maybe a multimillionaire at the least. He was very much Bruce Wayne. Very much Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's this billionaire or multimillionaire in Gotham City. The T-Man was a billionaire, multimillionaire, from New York. Just look at their lifestyles, they're parallel, right? So why did I bring that up? I found it was interesting that if you look at The Dark Knight Rises, which Trump gave that speech at his inauguration saying he's going to give power back to the people, like Bane. Bane was famous for what? For wearing a mask. Right? Whenever you think of Bane, you think about that mask that he wore. Okay. What happened in the last year of the T-Man's presidency? What happened? The illness, right? The illness, which they said came from a bat. Correct? Isn't that the claim, that it came from a wet market? The illness, the 2020 illness, came from a bat, supposedly, right? And then they put a bat on a quarter. On the back of the quarters, there's always some kind of, symbol or logo that they put on the back of the U.S. quarter. Well, guess what? In 2020, there's a bat on the back. So these things are interesting. Symbology. This is for people that are awake and are paying attention. If you don't understand this, you're not supposed to, and I'm not offended. You probably think I'm nuts, but just take a look. If you think I'm lying, just go take a look. 2016, kid comes running up to, it may have been 2016, I believe it was 2016, but kid comes running up to Trump saying, "Mr. Trump, are you Batman?" And he said, "I'm Batman." Then he gives the Bane speech at his inauguration. Right? Batman, mask. Bane, mask. What were we forced to wear during the pandemic? Masks. Okay. So I find these things to be extraordinary, very, very interesting. Um, I just, I don't know. I can't get past all of the predictive programming. And that's what I believe a lot of this is predictive programming. And the elites put these symbols, the symbology is always there in place for themselves. It's like the Bible says, let he that have ears to hear, let him hear, let him have eyes to see, let him see. Something along those lines, right? I probably butchered it. But if you get the point behind it, those that are awake, those that can see, will see it, right? Predictive programming. Predictive programming is everything to these people. All right? So I may sound crazy to you at the very moment, but if you look at the symbology behind it of who the T-Man is, he's Bruce Wayne. Go back and look at his early life. And you'll see he's Bruce Wayne all day long. He's Bruce Wayne all day long. And even if you go back to the first Batman, not the first movie, but the first of the Dark Knight trilogy, the Batman, Batman Begins. If you go back to that, the Scarecrow had on a mask, right? And he was releasing these chemicals that made people see things that really weren't there, right? It was an illusion, right? That was driving people crazy. You people, if you're conscious, you understand what I just said, right? And you know what happened in 2020. You get it. I don't have to say everything. For algorithm purposes, I won't say everything. This is for the awake, the people that are awake and understand. Let him that have ears to hear, let him hear. Hear and understand what I'm saying. There's also the rumor, and again, this isn't something that I necessarily believe, but or can prove. I can't prove it. But the late great comedian Dick Gregory said this right before he passed away. He said there's two Trumps. He said there's two. He said the red tie and then it's the blue tie. Right? And I've heard some other people say this, but I wanted to point out what Dick Gregory said because you can actually probably still find that on YouTube or BitChute or Rumble somewhere. The actual video where Dick Gregory, I almost called him Dick Cheney, where Dick Gregory said there's two. And there's been, it's been known that there's another T-Man, another Trump. That walks around. Okay. They actually put this on the news a few times. That's something else you can look up in Google. So I'm looking at it like, okay, from a symbolic standpoint, he could represent two entities, two people. Meaning, because he's a Gemini, right? The T-Man is a Gemini. Birthday June 14th, which just so happens to be Flag Day, right? In America. So he could be representative of two individuals or two separate I guess you could say, belief systems. So you have Batman, you have the Joker. I could see him being both. I could see him being, especially going back to the very first Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack, right? If you go back to that one, I could see him being both Bruce Wayne and Jack Napier. I see him being both. All day long. I can see it. I can see it. So, if this is true, and again, this is pure speculation. If this is true, and let's say the elites are running some kind of, they're running some kind of, I guess, some test run, psyop on us, and they're testing us to see how awake we are, or whatever. If this is true, and the T-Man has been put in place to play this role, right? And he's playing both roles. He's playing the good guy and the bad guy. Matter of fact, someone said that the blue tie is the good guy and that the red tie is the real him. That's what's being said. That's not what's being said by me. But I do find this interesting. Again, another thing that I found very, very interesting is 88. That's his name. 88. If you were to add his name, Trump, you would get 88. It comes out to the number 88. 88022 was his text number for his campaign. Text Trump at 88022. So it seems like the 88 was the name, right? 88 is the name and 22 is the year. Now here's the key. Here's the thing. When he was running for president, that was way back in 2016. So if what I'm saying right now is correct, and 88 was the man, the name, Trump, and 22 is the year, then that means that everything that we've been seeing has been pre-planned all along. All along. Predictive programming. The T-Man is Batman. Right? Mr. T. Mr. T, he's Batman. Right? The mask. All of it. All of it. The illness or the virus coming from a bat. Can't make this stuff up. Also, in 2019, there was footage of a giant bat. Someone needs to, it was making its way around the internet that year. It was a huge giant bat somewhere overseas. I can't remember where now. It's been too long since I've seen it. But just look at these things, man. Look at the symbolism into it all. Just look at it. Isn't it interesting? Don't you find it interesting that this man is Batman? That he's called himself Batman? And that he gave a Bane a speech referencing Bane at his inauguration, and then in the last year of his presidency, we get a illness that comes from a bat that shuts down the whole entire world, supposedly. Allegedly, this illness comes from a bat, and everyone is forced to wear a mask. Again, I'm not saying, but I'm saying. You got me? I'm not saying, but I'm saying. I think we got a little bit of predictive programming going on, whether you're aware of it or not. And now we got this movie again, text Trump 88022. 22 is the year. And now you got all this information coming out about Hunter Biden's laptop. You got the Durham report, right? You got all this stuff coming out at the same time in the year 2022. Isn't that interesting? And he already had the text number 88022 way back in 2016. I don't think it's all coincidence. I don't. You know? I just don't. And I think that movie, The Batman, was a huge clue that a lot of information is about to come out. I don't know who's the good guys. I don't know who's the bad guys. You know, you can speculate that all you want to. I'm just pointing out the symbolism, that's being put out right in front of people's faces, and they probably are not catching it. Oh, another thing before I leave. The Super Bowl. The Los Angeles Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, guess what? Who did the Rams beat to get to the Super Bowl? The San Francisco 49ers. Well, guess what? In 1988, it was the 49ers versus the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Another team from California, by the way. And this time, it was the Rams beating the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl to play the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought that was interesting. 88. You know who 88 is? It's the T-Man. It's Mr. T. It's Mr. T. Right? Isn't that interesting that Mr. T's run, I'm talking about the actor, Mr. T's run was all throughout the 80s. Anyway, I don't know, man. I don't know. Back to the Future, 88 miles per hour. You guys don't think this stuff is interesting? In order to go back to the future, you got to go 88 miles per hour. Text Trump 88022. And it just so happens that the Bengals are back in the Super Bowl against the Rams, who beat the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl. You don't think that Back to the Future 88 miles per hour, text Trump 8822. I don't know. But I do find it quite interesting. I don't know. It's up to you guys. You decide. I'm just throwing it out there. None of these things that I say when you hear me speak on this podcast, whatever you want to call it, it's pure speculation. I'm just throwing things out there. I like to look into symbolism. That's what I like to do. I like symbolism and decoding. That's all. So until next time.